Hello, my dear friends. Welcome once again to Kardec Radio. You are watching our program Spiritism, a closer look. And again, once again, we do this every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So I am Luiz Lima, your host for tonight, broadcasting from Orlando, Florida. And I want to tell you what the subject for our talk is today. Today or tonight, we are going to take a closer look at bullying. It's a situation, an ongoing situation in our society, of course. It's not good, nobody likes it, but it is part of our society. So we want to take a closer look at this thing uh, from both the social point of view and the spiritist point of view. Let's see what conclusion we get to and how we can, make it one day disappear. So let's try to start. Let's try to define what bullying is because it's not very simple. It involves a lot of things. So it's hard to to come up with one phrase that defines bullying in the way that we know in our current days. But here we go. Bullying is a behavior. It's a form of behavior that it has some very well defined characteristics. First of all, it is intentional. It's not something that by accident it happens. No, it is intentional. There's an intention behind it on those who are the bullies. It is repetitive. It keeps being there's ongoing process that repeats itself on and on and on and on. And it's a process that seeks some sort of dominance, some kind of dominance. It's a form of violence to begin with, coercion, intimidation, we can say, manipulation, we could say too. And this domination that of the stronger over the weaker, either physically or emotionally. It causes a completely imbalance between both the aggressor and the victim in certain instance. And here's the worst part: there is apparently, if you're looking at a scene where bullying takes place, apparently there is no motivation for it. It starts out of the blue, out of nothing. So there is no apparent motivation. It's just this behavior that seeks domination and power, self satisfaction, self indulgence, to show and display superiority of some form. And and also for the bully, those making it happen, dominance, the dominance that they portray, it must be acknowledged by the victim or the victim and those around the event, the situation. It must be acknowledged. Otherwise, the bully escalates and it starts getting worse and worse and worse. So it is a difficult situation. It is typically very common to be associated with kids in school, but that's not all it is. It goes way, way, way beyond kids in school. It's not age related. It's not because they are kids that bullying could take place, but not later in life. No, it's not age related. It's not related to the how old the body is. It's not. So this needs to be understood. Some forms of bullying, schooling kids in school is one form, just one form, but there are several others. They all bring the same concept. They all have the same core, which we're going to develop here throughout the talk. But for example, family relationships. There are family members that just don't get along, and one feels that he should or must overpower some situation. Work environment. Oppression in work environment. It could be a boss that is very bossy, as the word says, but beyond control. Because you can be bossy in terms of keeping the thing organized, but when it goes out of control, it can get very complicated. So that could cause bullying. Here's another one, very common: domestic violence. Domestic violence. It happens all over the place, all over the world, in different cultures, different countries. Domestic violence. Another one, people in power. People in power, politicians, people in placed in power, and it has to do with how they express their authority. Because you can be in power, you can express your authority in a way that doesn't hurt anyone. Example: Jesus. He had the power. He expressed his authority, but no bullying, nothing even close to that. Here's another example: slavery. The slaves were victims, big time victims of bullying by those who owned them. There are other forms, I would say, almost hidden forms of bullying. I'm just going to bring one of them here, two of them. I'm going to discuss two here. When you are watching TV, and whatever you are watching, a program stops for a commercial break, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, short breaks. There are some ads. Of course, this is part of a marketing campaign, but there are some ads. There are nothing else than bullying you at your home. That's what they're doing. They usually have very extremely loud music, sometimes annoying, but very loud music. Some sort of image, but the image is not even important. The narrator, those who are saying something behind the scenes, they're not reading a script, they're not talking to you, they are absolutely screaming. They are really screaming very loud to offer a certain product, service, whatever it is. And there's a lot of duress, that you feel it, a lot of duress in that. When the ad, which is maybe 30 seconds, right? Usually not more than that, usually even less than that. But let's say 30 seconds. When that is over, you kind of, whew, wow. There's a relief. There's a slight sensation of a relief. Let's go watch the next commercial because that one that just passed was absolutely horrible. That's bullying. That's a form of aggression. That's we watching TV are victims of someone bullying. And one of the most silent types of bullying is cyberbullying. Cyberbullying. It is so the potential for cyberbullying is greater than anything else, because in when you express what you want to express, when the bully expresses what he wants to express, the amount of people, the number of people that he is able to reach at the same time is incredibly high because of the internet, the social networks, and so. But all these things are forms of bullying, all of them. So it isn't about children only. It's about children and grown-ups. Again, there is no apparent motivation for that. The motivation, most of the times, actually almost all the time, is not explicit. It's hidden. And it's hidden because it has to do with an internal conflict that the bully is feeling, whatever it is. But there's some sort of unresolved conflict that brings all those emotions and sentiments, and he behaves that way. So it's not related to the age of the body, like I said, but it's related to how mature or immature the soul is. It has to do with spiritual advancement. spiritual maturity. Bullies are, because they carry this huge inner or internal conflict, they are always very unhappy. They might not show it, but they are always very unhappy. Their behavior can be triggered by something innocent. For example, the drop of a pen can trigger an entire attitude of bullying behavior like that. They seem to be always at the verge of a breakdown. Always. They're always ready to break down. It's very difficult for them too, we know. Usually they are inconsistent individuals, so they say things now and 2 minutes later they say exactly the other way around. They kind of lose track of what they're saying especially during these episodes where they are expressing themselves in a form of bullying. They're usually very volatile individuals and very controlling to make sure that everything happens the way they want it to happen. And they are not able to make people happy, and worse, they prohibit from their judgment, they prohibit others from being happy. So much conflict that they carry within themselves. We could go as far as saying that the bullies are victims of themselves. They're victims of themselves. Nobody made them the way they are. It's a, Spiritism is very clear on it. It's responsibility. Wherever we go, we carry with us our hell or our heaven. So bullies are these modern day crusaders, right? The Crusades in Middle Ages. They are armed all the time. They want to attack those who have nothing to do with you. You don't even know. They will pick on a person, on a group of people, and just attack them with, again, no apparent motivation, but the motivation is their internal conflict. So with time, because this is like a snowball, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger in terms of more people doing it and more victims. In our society, we tried different ways, and we still try to control the situation a little bit so it doesn't get, even further. And this is called anti-bullyism. Anti-bullyism, meaning something that we are going to do that will fight bullyism, like a set of measures, something that's going to fight bullyism. So anti-bullyism states that we should seek for new laws as a solution to the problem. Now think about this. If you put a law, you're not interfering in the root of the problem, because a law is something that defines how to react to something that already happened. It doesn't prevent. Human laws, no human laws can force us to like and respect somebody else, because this is not like that. It's at the spiritual level that this happens. So, the anti-bullyism goes by more or less some thought like this: if you're a victim, other people need to change. So anti-bullyism promotes intolerance and hatred against bullies. It promotes an eye for an eye instead of turning the other cheek. So anti-bullyism is incompatible with the teachings of Jesus. He never taught anything like this. Hate the bullies, be intolerant with them. Let's do an eye for an eye. None of this came from Jesus. None of this comes from God or natural law or the God's law. So the human law sees us as just people, while Spiritism sees us as immortal spirits. So there are consequences on the long run, including after death, as we know it. So turning the other cheek is completely out of the line of thought that people that support anti-bullyism think of. Like Gandhi, Martin Luther King. These were guys who turned the other cheek to bullying, for example. So Jesus' teachings were addressed to the immortal spirit. He taught that we should look inside, not outside, to resolve first our own conflicts, as a consequence, conflicts in our society, bullying being one of them. If you think about it, Jesus suffered bullying himself, but never ever condemned or denounced any of them. He would go as far as saying, Father, forgive them for what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. So, when we look at this from the Spiritist point of view, it becomes very interesting. I'm going to put something on the screen. I'm going to leave it here until the end of our talk. That's something that we spoke quite a few times already, the spirit scale, which has to do with the level of advancement of the spirits. At the bottom of the scale here, you see the impure spirits. Those are the less advanced spirits. Up here, pure spirits are the most advanced. On earth, because the earth is a place for spirits in the red sections, in the bottom of the scale, it's called a planet of trials and expiations. So it is housing, the earth is housing spirits in the red, if you look at the picture. Impure, frivolous, sort of learn, neutral. We don't have on earth a lot of green per se, if you look at the colors on the scale. We don't have a lot of green spirits living among us. The great majority are red. And spirits like that, at the bottom of the scale, are spirits with their level of advancement is minimal. So this idea of dominance, this caveman idea of dominance, oh yeah, I can do it all, I will do it all. You see, this is not the law of God. When you go to the top of the scale, dominance changes and becomes surrender. But spirits need to learn humility to get this far. Bullies don't have any humility at all. They think they are the best and the better. So the bullies think that bullying is okay, of course. They don't see the need for a law for changes in the way our society behaves. They think everything is good. Now, when they are bullying, say somebody, so a bully is attacking or being aggressive towards a victim. If the victim does not make the bully feel he's succeeding, he gets worse. The bully is going to escalate and be worse, be more aggressive. And if there's no expected response from the victim, as the bully would expect, it gets worse and worse until they get to a point. This can provoke them to get to a point where they have an episode of moral implosion, and they just lose it. The suffering, the amount of suffering, the amount of the turmoil inside is so big that they have this moral implosion. Usually they leave, they cry, they run away, they dismantle, morally speaking, because it's difficult for them too. Bullying can never be accepted in our society because otherwise the society goes into this moral implosion. Society has to have rules, and you cannot just allow this to happen. Otherwise, we go back to the old days of Columbine massacre, and we had a bunch more, Sandy Hook, Parkland in Florida. All these school shootings, mass shootings, they are all nothing more than bullying. And they are also nothing more than consequences of inner conflict. Now, let's think about the bully for a minute here. All of us, regardless of who you are, who we are, who everybody is or were, considering those who discarnated already, we are all on our best incarnation. Me, you, Hitler, we are all on our best incarnation. That includes the bullies. They are on their best incarnation. One life prior to this one, they were worse than they are now. What's difficult for them is to have the feeling that they are better because they think they already are the best. That's the problem. How do we convey that idea of, they can feel that they have to change? That's very difficult. So these bullies, they expose themselves as struggling spirits. When you think of the situation from the strictly spiritist point of view, so we are looking as immortal spirits, not people, immortal spirits. They are spirits in desperate need of a helping hand. But the problem is, how do you call for help? For example, think of a baby. Okay, a baby. He's not comfortable because of temperature. He wants to eat. How do they ask for help? They can't sit down with you and talk. Listen, why don't you go to the kitchen and prepare something for me to eat? No, they can't do that. They express themselves in the form that they are able to, which is crying, screaming. That's how they ask for help. And it gets worse. They can cry more. They can cry louder. It means, I'm getting more, if you will, desperate, quotes please, to get what it's eating time, or it's too hot. I need to be more comfortable. Bullies are the same thing. They are spirits in desperate need of a helping hand, but they don't know how to get to you and say, listen, I need help. Their way of asking for help is bullying. So when we look at somebody, a bully, we have to understand that that person needs help. He's asking for help. He's crying for help. However, in our society, for the most part, the victim or those around, friends and so, react to bullying with anger and sentiment of revenge against the abuser. When we do this, we are sustaining bullying because we are making it stay instead of, making it go away. We are welcoming it because we are, accepting that. And that's what needs to change. How do we change? Is it easy? No, it's not easy. Starts early in life. It's moral education. It's what's going to teach the young children from a very young age. That's where we start. Teach that they no longer, in a way that they no longer sustain this psychic atmosphere of bullying. So when they are, because everyone is potentially a victim of bullying, it all depends on how you react. Somebody tells you something to provoke, you can just pass by and go away and don't care. But you can always say, hey, what are you saying? And then the whole thing starts right there. So when we do this, I'm not saying it's easy, please. When we do this, we are sustaining bullying. So in our society, every time we do this, we are helping sustain it. That's not what Spiritism teaches. Spiritism teaches what Jesus came here for, to teach us as well, with reasoning. You see, it would be very easy for me to come here and say, listen, don't react. Okay, you're going to listen to me? And you're going to say, why? But why should I? Meaning, I need an explanation. I understand what you're saying, but I didn't get the idea behind it. Explain to me. This is what Spiritism is, this explanatory body of knowledge that brings reasoning into the equation to explain why we should not react with anger and this sentiment of revenge and an eye for an eye. Because when I react like this, every reaction is also an action. So when I react like this, I'm triggering a whole new avenue of trouble for me that I'm going to have to offset at one point in the future. Could be on this life, could be a next one, but I will have to offset. If I respond to aggressiveness with aggressiveness, I'm going to have to offset that. So from the Spiritist point of view, the bully or bullying in general is nothing more than a cry for help. It's somebody asking for help. It's how they, if you will, verbalize their need for help. And can we help? Yes, we can. We can help. There are several things we can do, all based in understanding that the golden rule: don't do to others what you don't want others doing to you. So if we respond to bullying with bullying, that's not what we want to do. That's not what the golden rule is. That's not what Jesus came to teach us. We have to turn the other cheek. It's not that we are going to say, hey, I want you to come back here and bully me every single day because I just liked it. That's not it. But we cannot sustain. At one point, that person, the bully, is going to go to somebody else. He's going to try to do the same thing to another group of people or to somebody else, because you're not acknowledging to him that he's a superior person. So you don't matter to him. He's going to go to somebody else. So that's one last event of bullying. And the next person, the next potential victim, does the same thing. And the third potential victim does the same thing. And that's how it goes around and around. And that way we can start to change the psychic atmosphere that we sustain on Earth. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's doable and possible. We have references. We have Jesus, who was himself bullied, and he didn't react with anger. He didn't, do anything eye for an eye for an eye style to deal with the situation. So thank you very much for being with us here tonight. We appreciate, and we are going to be here next week once again with another night of a Spiritism, a closer look, right here on Kardec Radio. So I'll see you next week, Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you very much. Be well.